Yo, what's going on, guys? It's Noah here, breaking down the Showdown slate on Draftkings for Week 11 for the Monday Night Football game. Now, for this Monday night, we do have a very fun game. Should be a pretty fun game to watch between the Chiefs and the Chargers. It's expected to be a high-scoring and close game. 52.5 total, just looking at the Vegas odds so far as of Sunday afternoon. 52.5 total, 4-point spread. Should make for a pretty fun game to watch. This game is being played in Mexico City. So we'll talk through this showdown slate, talk about some of the players I like. We'll just kind of look at the quarterbacks, then we'll talk about the running backs, receivers, etc. I'll be sure to hit on guys I like at the top. Obviously, I will try and touch on some cheaper plays that I'll be targeting as well, like 6K and below. Don't want to just give you like all the stud plays. You guys know to play like Patrick Mahomes, Tyreek Hill. I mean, these guys are good plays on a showdown slate. I don't need to tell you that. So we'll look through different roster construction as well as we go through the player pool and we talk about some options. We'll build out a couple lineups, just look at different ways to build a lineup if you want to go with like a cheaper captain, if it makes sense to do that. If it makes sense to pay up at captain, I'll be sure to touch on some of my favorite captain plays as well. We'll definitely look at some like snap counts from last week, see if there's any cheap guys that are playing a lot that could potentially be options as like low-owned flyers. I'll be sure to touch on that as well. Just a few things before we do get started. As always, guys, I would greatly appreciate it if you would drop a like down below. Also, make sure you subscribe to the channel if you have not already. If you are new here, if you've never subscribed before, or if you aren't subscribed yet, be sure to click that subscribe button. Also, make sure to click the notification bell so that way you get notified every time I upload. And if you're not following me on Twitter, feel free to do so as well. My Twitter is at DFS by Noah. You guys can give me a follow over there. Pretty active over on Twitter. If you need to contact me, my DMs are open, so you can message me as well. But let's go ahead and take a look at this showdown slate. We'll start off with the quarterbacks. So looking at the QBs in this game, Patrick Mahomes, 12K. Phillip Rivers, 8,800. So obviously both quarterbacks are in play. I don't need to tell you that. If I have to just roster one QB in this game, though, I mean, Phillip Rivers has not looked great. He's not been good for fantasy these last few games. Just the last 3 games, 11, 11, and 13 Draftkings points against the Bears, the Packers, and the Raiders. He's 8,800 though. You're saving nearly $3,000 dropping down from Patrick Mahomes to Phillip Rivers. I think it's going to all depend like how you construct your lineup on who you play as a QB. Like if you're playing like Keenan Allen at captain, then you obviously want to have Phillip Rivers in those lineups. If you're playing Tyreek Hill at captain, you probably want to have Patrick Mahomes in those lineups. I don't think I'm going to be going to either quarterback as captain plays. Obviously, Patrick Mahomes has a ton of upside, but with him being 18K as a captain play, he's probably going to have to put up over 30 DraftKings points, I would imagine, for him to be like the best captain play. And obviously, there's a chance he does that. I mean, he's gone for over 30 DraftKings points 4 games this season. But when you can get guys like Tyreek Hill for cheaper that have a ton of upside, Travis Kelce has a ton of upside, Melvin Gordon, Keenan Allen, these guys have 25, 30-point upside. I don't think I'm going to be paying up for Patrick Mahomes at captain on this showdown slate. I'm definitely going to have exposure to him, but as a captain play, especially because I don't really like a lot of the value we have. I mean, there's not any great like cheap plays I feel good about. It's going to be tough to get Mahomes in as a captain. But now taking a look at the running backs, this is where I do have a lot of interest. So we got Melvin Gordon at 8,600, Damian Williams at 7,400, and then Austin Eckler at 6,600. I have a lot of interest in the running backs on both sides. Starting off with Melvin Gordon, I like this matchup for him a lot here facing the Chiefs. This Chiefs team has been really bad against the run so far this season. If we do look at the volume so far, just the last few games that Melvin Gordon is getting, ever since that Green Bay game when he looked really good, he was breaking a lot of tackles, he hurdled a guy. He's been getting a lot more volume, just looked a lot more efficient. In that Green Bay game, he got 20 carries, 4 targets, so 23 touches in that game. Against Oakland, 22 carries, only 1 target, but still 23 touches in that game as well. The volume is just clearly there for Melvin Gordon right now. If it's a close game, which it should be, Melvin Gordon's going to be on the field a lot. They'll still use Austin Eckler in the passing game, but he's just not going to get the volume that Melvin Gordon will get. Austin Eckler is obviously more their pass down back. If they get down big in this game, which I don't see being the case, I mean, this is projected to be a close game. I don't see them trailing for a lot of this game. I don't see them trailing by like 14 or 20 points. Eckler's obviously in play, but if I'm going to go to one of the running backs from the Chargers, it's going to be Melvin Gordon, just given the volume that he is getting right now. I like the matchup a lot against the Chiefs. Like I said, really bad Chiefs run defense. Gordon's gone for over 100 yards, I believe, the last 2 games. Didn't go for 100 yards against Green Bay, but he did get into the end zone twice in that game. So Gordon's just looking really good right now. I like the matchup. He's probably one of my favorite plays overall in this showdown slate. I like using him as a captain at 8,600 because that's going to allow you to get in those top tier guys that you want rather than like paying up for Mahomes at captain. Damian Williams, though, that's also someone I want to talk about. So last week against Tennessee, we got news that LaShawn McCoy was going to be a healthy scratch, was going to be inactive. That pretty much put Damian Williams in the number one running back role for the Chiefs last week. 19 carries, 77 yards, also got 5 targets, 5 catches for 32 yards. I'm assuming that LaShawn McCoy is going to be a healthy scratch again, and we're going to see Damian Williams play a large majority of the snaps at running back for the Chiefs. Last week that was the case. He did play 72% of the snaps at running back, 18% for Darrell Williams, and then you saw, or it says LaShawn McCoy 10%, but that's incorrect. I believe last week Williams played like over 70% of the snaps. I'm not sure why it's under week 9 either. It should be under week 10. But either way, Williams is going to be the number one back for the Chiefs. It's clear that that he's going to be that right now. He gets work in the passing game, which makes him so valuable on DraftKings, makes him a viable play. You want to target running backs that at least can get a couple targets. Williams will do that. He's playing the most snaps out of all the running backs. They used Darrell Williams last week a little bit. They used Darwin Thompson a little bit as well. But it was clear that Damian Williams was the number one guy for the Chiefs. So I really like him at 7,400. Another running back play I think that makes a lot of sense. He is questionable, which is something to note. As I'm recording this Sunday afternoon, he's listed as questionable, but it seems likely that he's going to play. I believe Rappaport tweeted out that he's expected to play. So I like Damian Williams a lot on this Showdown slate at 7,400. But now just touching on some of the receivers, you got Tyreek Hill, 10,600. You got Keenan Allen, 8,400. Tyreek Hill obviously is a top play. I mean, the dude is just seeing so much volume. Last week against the Titans, he got 19 targets in that game, 11 catches, 157 yards, and a touchdown. I was watching a large majority of that game because I had a lot of interest in Ryan Tannehill. I had him in my cash lineup, or I had Ryan Tannehill and A.J. Brown in my cash lineup in that week. And Tyreek Hill, I mean, this dude was just burning every corner they put on him. Nobody could really stop him. Now, the Chargers do have some good corners like Desmond King, Casey Hayward, but these guys are obviously not going to be able to stop Tyreek Hill. He's going to get the volume. 10,600 is a pretty expensive price tag to pay, but I mean, the upside that Tyreek Hill has, you can't avoid this guy on a one-game Showdown slate. He could go for 40 DraftKings points, and nobody would be surprised. So he's obviously a great play. I would definitely play him like over Kelsey and over Patrick Mahomes because I think just the upside it gives you makes him a strong option. But I really like Keenan Allen again. I mean, Keenan Allen, 8,400 just feels way too cheap for the upside that this guy has. He's still getting targeted a ton. He's gotten double-digit targets in 3 of the last 4 weeks. I had a lot of interest in him on that last Showdown slate against the Raiders. I mean, he wasn't great, just 8 catches, 68 yards, 16 DraftKings points. Melvin Gordon had a big game in that Showdown slate, so you kind of needed Melvin Gordon to win. I have a feeling we could see Keenan Allen, he's eventually going to explode. He's eventually going to go for 8 catches, 100 yards, and 1 or 2 touchdowns. The 25-30 DraftKings point game is coming for Keenan Allen pretty soon. Could come here against the Chiefs. I mean, the Chiefs secondary, they don't really have any elite corners that will be able to shut down Keenan Allen. This dude finds ways to get open. If I'm playing him at captain, I want Phillip Rivers in there, so that's definitely something to note. Whenever you're playing like receivers at captain, you always want to pair them with your quarterbacks. You want to correlate your lineups that way. So if I'm going to pay up for Tyreek Hill at captain, I want Mahomes in those lineups. If I'm playing Keenan Allen at captain, I want Phillip Rivers in those lineups. Keenan Allen, I like a lot at 8,400, along with Melvin Gordon and like Damian Williams. Those are probably some of my favorite options on this Showdown slate, just given their price tag and like the amount of money you'll save off the top tier guys. And then you got like the wide receiver 2s, the wide receiver 3s, Sammy Watkins, 6K here. I think Sammy Watkins makes a lot of sense as a cheap value. I mean, the dude's still getting targeted a ton, 8, 10, 9 targets just the last 3 games. Hasn't gotten into the end zone, so you're not getting like a big game from Sammy Watkins, but the volume is still clearly there for him. He's got one of the best quarterbacks throwing him the ball. So I like Sammy Watkins as a value. Mike Williams as well as another really good value play. Didn't see a ton of volume last week against Oakland or against Green Bay, but the guy still is going to be targeted a ton in this Chargers offense. It's going to be him and Keenan Allen seeing all the volume out of the receivers. They really don't have any other receivers that they use. I mean, we can look at the wide receiver snaps from last week. You already know it's going to be Keenan Allen and Mike Williams playing all the snaps. 95% for Mike Williams, 84% for Keenan Allen. One thing to note is Andre Patton played 81% of the snaps, and that's probably what he'll play in this game, but he just doesn't run a ton of routes. He's not getting targeted. I mean, he's so cheap on DraftKings. If you wanted to take a flyer on him, I don't think it's the worst idea. If I'm going to play a $200 guy, it's probably going to be him. But, I mean, the dude's he's just not getting targeted. He's playing a ton of snaps, but he's just not getting targeted. So, really hard to trust him. If I'm going to one of the Chargers receivers, it's going to be Keenan Allen. It's going to be Mike Williams. We'll talk about Hunter Henry in a second as well. But then with these Chiefs receivers, It's really hard to trust any of these guys as optimal plays. In a showdown slate, you obviously are trying to search for upside, and a guy like McCole Hardman gives you a ton of upside. This dude is really, really fast. He only had one catch last week against the Titans, but that one catch went for 63 yards and a touchdown. He doesn't play a ton of snaps either, so he's really risky. Last week against the Titans, only played 22% of the snaps, but the guy does have a ton of big play ability. He's going to come in really low owned on this showdown slate, so I wouldn't mind using him in a GPP just because of the big play upside he gives you. I would probably target Demarcus Robinson, though. I would feel a lot safer targeting him just because he plays more snaps. He's getting more targets. Last week, 67% of the snaps, 5 targets. He's going to see more volume than McCole Hardman. He's going to be on the field more than McCole Hardman. You could argue that Hardman just has more upside given his talent, but, I feel a lot safer with Robinson at 4,400. And then looking at, that's probably it. Byron Pringle, I'm probably not going to be targeting. He's just not playing enough snaps. He's not getting targeted. It's hard to go to him. Like I said, Patton's playing a ton of snaps, but he's just not getting targeted, so it's really hard to trust him as well. I would say my favorite cheap plays outside the kickers and defenses are probably Mike Williams and Sammy Watkins. $6K, 5,800 for those guys. They make a lot of sense as cheap options. And then looking at the tight ends real quick, we got Travis Kelce for $9K, Hunter Henry for $8,200. So obviously Travis Kelce is a great play on this showdown slate. The dude finally got into the end zone last week, finally had a big game, 7 catches, 75 yards, and a touchdown. Scored on a little shovel pass at the goal line. Eventually Kelce was going to get into the end zone. He's been pretty unlucky this season with touchdowns. He's only scored 3 times, I believe. Yeah, he's only scored 3 times this season. Kelce's going to get into the end zone probably most weeks. He's going to give you 8, 10 targets most weeks. He's going to be heavily targeted. If I have to choose one of the tight ends in this game, I honestly would rather have him over Hunter Henry. Hunter Henry, only $800 cheaper. Another guy that's going to see similar volume to Travis Kelce, but I think Travis Kelce just the more talented tight end. He's got the better quarterback. There's not enough price differential for me to want to drop down from Kelce to Henry. With only an $800 difference, I'll just try and find the salary to get up to Travis Kelce. So if I'm looking to target one of the tight ends in this game, for sure going to be Travis Kelce at $9K. But again, Tyreek Hill's only $1,600 more. You got Keenan Allen for $600 less. That's probably where I'm going to be looking to if I'm trying to fit in a player in that price range. But I think we pretty much covered all the options that I think are playable on this showdown slate, all the guys that I have interest in. So let's look at a couple roster builds, maybe build out a couple lineups real quick before we end the video. So I definitely wanted to try and do a roster build with Melvin Gordon at captain. I do like Melvin Gordon a lot in this matchup. Playing him at captain for $12,900 is going to leave you $7,420 remaining per player. So there's a lot of ways we could construct this lineup. Assuming Melvin Gordon has a big game and goes for 25, 30 DK points, that probably means he's scoring the touchdowns for the Chargers, which means I probably don't want to play Rivers or Allen in those lineups. Probably want to get some exposure to some of the pass catchers from the Chiefs side. Let's try and fit in Mahomes quarterback in this lineup if we can. It leaves us $6,275. It's going to be pretty tough to get Kelce or Hill in this lineup, but we could definitely use Sammy Watkins at $6K as a value. Plugging him in at $6K leaves us $63.36 or $63.66 remaining per player. We could definitely go to Damian Williams, who I think is going to see a ton of volume, going to get work in the passing game as well. I do like him quite a bit at $7,400. Now we got $58.50 remaining per player. So, I talked about under $6K. There's not much I like. You could take a shot on Demarcus Robinson at $4,400. McCole Hardman, I mentioned, is not going to play a lot, but he's got so much big playability that he is at least in play for me, just given the big playability he has. If I'm going to choose one of those wide receivers, though, it's definitely going to be Robinson, just given he plays more snaps. He's going to get targeted more. Plugging him in at $4,400 is going to leave us $7,300 remaining per player. And there's not really much I like in this price range. I don't want to play Austin Eckler with Melvin Gordon at captain. So if I was going to play someone here, it definitely would be Mike Williams at $5,800. So that leaves you $1,500 left on the table. So you could definitely upgrade here. You could upgrade from Damian Williams to Keenan Allen or Phillip Rivers, which probably makes a lot of sense. I think that's probably the only viable upgrade you could do. So yeah, we could take out Damian Williams and either play Phillip Rivers, which I like a lot. Even though you got Melvin Gordon at captain, there's a chance Phillip Rivers still has a decent game for $8,800. So that's a lineup build that I like quite a bit. You could take out Rivers and you could play Keenan Allen for $8,400, who I also mentioned I like quite a bit on this showdown slate. But depending on who you're playing, with receivers at captain, I mentioned I like Tyreek Hill a lot as a receiver play. I like Travis Kelce a lot. I like Keenan Allen a lot. I want to pair, or if I'm going to play one of those guys at captain, I want to pair them with their QB. So let's play a lineup with Keenan Allen at captain, pair him with Phillip Rivers. That's going to leave us $7,150 remaining per player. So we could look to some exposure to the Chiefs side. I mentioned I like Damian Williams a ton, 7,400. We could plug him in there. That leaves us just over 7K remaining per player. We could go with like one of these cheap plays I like, whether it's Sammy Watkins or Mike Williams. We'll go with, since we got Allen and Rivers paired together, probably don't want to do Mike Williams as well, so we'll plug in Sammy at 6K, and that leaves us 7,600 remaining per player. If we were to go with Mahomes, that would leave us 3,200 remaining, and I don't see really any 3,200 or cheaper plays I like. So probably not going to be able to get Mahomes. If we were to play, just doing the math real quickly in my head, if we were to play Tyreek Hill or in that one of those last spots, that would leave us 4,600 remaining per player, which would leave you enough to play Demarcus Robinson, which you could for sure do. But then you got 3 pass catchers from the Chiefs without Patrick Mahomes, which doesn't feel like a way I want to go. If I'm going to play multiple pass catchers from the Chiefs, probably want to have Patrick Mahomes in those lineups if possible. So let's see what we can do if maybe we go with Kelsey at 9K. That leaves us enough to play Mike Williams, which I mentioned I'm not a big fan of, but I mean on this single game showdown slate, you don't really have many options that you can do. You're not going to fall in love with all your lineups on these showdown slates. Usually it's the gross lineups that wind up winning these big tournaments. So you could go with Kelsey and Williams. If you plugged in Melvin Gordon, that leave you enough to play Eckler. Like I mentioned, I don't really want to play Eckler and Gordon in the same lineup, but you'd have enough salary to do so if you wanted to do so. But I think if I'm just making one lineup on this showdown slate, I'm probably going Melvin Gordon at captain, trying to get Mahomes if possible, probably trying to get both quarterbacks if possible because I usually want to have exposure to at least one of the 2 quarterbacks. I mentioned I really like Williams and Watkins as cheap plays. Watkins 6K, Williams 5,800. You could plug in either one of those guys as cheap plays. If you can find the salary to get up to like Keenan Allen or Travis Kelce, I like doing that as well. But that's kind of just how I'm looking to approach this single game showdown slate, guys. Really don't play much volume on these. I mean, I play like small amounts of volume. I don't take these too seriously. I just throw a couple lineups in there, hope to hit big. I mean, I expect to lose on showdown slates. I don't try and like grind out a profit playing showdown. Just gives me something to sweat while I watch the games. That's probably how you guys should play these as well. You shouldn't be playing like whatever you play on like an NFL Sunday, you should not be playing that on a single game showdown slate. You should probably be playing like 10% of what you play on a NFL Sunday. But anyways, guys, I think that's it for the video. Hopefully you guys did enjoy this video. As always, greatly appreciate you watching. Before we get out of here, make sure you drop a like down below. If you have not subscribed to the channel yet, make sure you click that subscribe button as well. You can follow me on Twitter as well at DFS by Noah. Very active over on Twitter. You guys can give me a follow over there. You can contact me on Twitter if you need to. Forgot to mention at the beginning, but for those of you that haven't been keeping up to date with any of my more recent videos, I did announce that I will be starting a Patreon soon. At the beginning of December, I will have exclusive Patreon content for NFL and NBA. And when baseball season starts, I'll have MLB content over there as well. Very excited to release my Patreon. I'll keep you guys updated as we do get closer to the launch date. Most likely either December 1st or 2nd, I will launch that Patreon. I'm going to have very cheap packages available. I'm going to have private videos, slate breakdowns. I'm going to have written articles that I write myself every day. There'll just be so much content over on Patreon that you can get access to. So would appreciate it if you guys would check that out when it does launch. But anyways, guys, thank you for watching. I greatly appreciate it. Hope you enjoyed the video, and we will see you in the next one. Peace.